You ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. Oh, hold on. This can't be in the front. I've been told that's not how you wear it. If you're trying to look like a millennial, the tag can't be in the front.
Huh. No.
Yeah. Keep it young.
Welcome everyone to the Pat and Paul Show. My name is Paul McLeod. I am joined, as always, by Ian McLaughlin. Pat.
Oh, hello.
It's good to see you in the office.
Yeah.
It's rare that we're actually both here on the same day.
I agree.
This is a real treat.
Yes.
Real treat. I've actually been looking forward to this for quite a while.
Have you?
It's quite the auspicious occasion, the two of us together, filming, just like old times. As I brought along, for this auspicious occasion, this was such a special occasion to me, my heart, I brought along a couple presents.
Alrighty.
A couple presents. Let me just come down here. So we got present number one.
Whoa! Nice. Check it out. Oh,
Pat and Paul branded tees.
Oh, that is awesome.
What size you wear? You a large, an extra large?
I'm an XL, yeah.
Okay, that's what we got there.
Beautiful.
One for you, one for me.
Oh,
I'm actually
wow.
so excited about this. I'm just gonna hop it on right here.
Really happening.
This is
Really doing it.
this is your second present. This counts as the second gift.
Oh, that's awesome.
Pop this right on this nice micromodal fabric.
Is it 50-50 blend or what?
It's nano, something nano.
Oh, gorgeous.
Now, for this most auspicious occasion, I thought it would be appropriate to have 5 reasons to move to AEM 6.3 episode.
Whoa.
AEM 6.3, so I'm going to let you take the steering wheel once again.
Well, thank you.
So I've got there 5 reasons to move to, or to start thinking about moving to AEM 6.3. 6.3, pretty fresh off the presses. We were involved in the beta testing for a few months there, so got a chance to look at the features as they were getting solidified, and I've picked out 5 that are my favorites. There's lots of new features in AEM 6.3, lots of stuff that maybe some of the things I picked out are more developer-centric,
Right,
this being a development technology show.
There you go.
So that's what we're looking at,
All right.
5 reasons. So you want
I'm
to...
going to MC this thing.
Yeah, I'm going to let you go at your own pace, whatever you feel is
All right.
So
Now, is this 5-1 or 1-5?
this is 5-1.
All right, so this
So
is the 5th best reason
Correct.
to move to AEM 6.3.
Correct.
Number 5, foundational components.
Foundational
I
components.
would like to correct you. I believe they are called core components.
Core components, really.
So, Paul, tell me why this is number 5. In an aside, I'm excited that they have sunsetted the geometric site.
So that's probably the piece that's more exciting. It's like some of the new features fall into a group of changes which I am calling the pragmatic moves.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pragmatic change. For a long time, people would talk about the out-of-the-box components in AEM, the things that you can do out of the box. And once you start operating in AEM, you start to realize that those out-of-the-box components were really just there to service the demo sites that were inside of AEM.
It's that they were not generic enough to build your own site.
Right.
They're very specific.
And this is now Adobe's produced set of core components that they're going to continue to augment and enhance that represent that sort of foundational set of things, so your text, your image, things of that nature, which you can then choose to pull into your project if you want to leverage them.
And a cool note about it, they're open source.
Right.
They're available in GitHub.
Yep, so you can go, you can check them out, you can contribute to the project if that's something you want to do. So that was a very pragmatic move, very nice move for developers.
Let's move on a little bit.
Yeah,
Number 4. No, that's a good one. It's a hot one right now.
Yeah, that's good. I can't remember what it was.
Fragments.
So, fragments.
Content fragments.
Content fragments was one of our reasons to upgrade to 6.2, in fact. But now, in addition to content fragments, we've got experience fragments.
There you go.
So we're taking now it's not just the written content as an asset. Now we can package up chunks of experience as assets and reuse those experiences across multiple sites, across multiple applications.
And to be clear, I think I heard you say it, the experience fragments are stored as assets. The same as
stored as
fragments.
assets.
Gotcha.
Yes. So they are the asset management mechanism is sort of your, they're considered digital assets essentially, as broad and ridiculous as that term is, which is a whole other show for another day.
Probably a series.
Might as well get started right now. Welcome everyone to the Pat and Paul Show. So they're digital assets and reuse across touch points.
Very cool.
I'm repeating myself at this point, but yeah, there's been numerous enhancements to the content fragments as well. The content fragment editor, your usage of metadata, things of that nature, and experience fragments is now joining that family, that family of reuse. So along with the pragmatic updates, there's the reusability update group, and this is definitely one of the reusability initiatives.
Would you say at a larger view of all this, is this finally pushing AEM into more of a turnkey solution? I know it's not there all the way, but is it promoting the right things that allows you, when you buy and license AEM, you can get started faster?
It seems that it's moving in that direction, and the fragments is part of that. One of the features that's not on my list yet, but the template editor seems like another part of that, where you partner, the template editor with the core components, and now you're getting closer and closer to the situation where the thing that you need to develop to get a site up and running is just your style, your CSS, maybe your JavaScript if you're building something that's more of an application, a front-end application, but it's getting closer and closer to that situation where you don't have developers spending their time building a ton of custom componentry.
Because I think that was the one of the things that really at least drew me to the content fragments was this idea that there is another role in the process. It's not just developer and author anymore. And it feels like this is even going towards that even more.
Yep.
So I don't know what experience manager, that there's some role there that is actually creating new templates and creating fragments and then allowing authors to use them within the same way, the same pages and components that they did. I feel like that is a step forward in really getting away from needing developers to support a large system all the time.
Right, but it's also going to be a shift in how enterprises approach using AEM, because now it's additional roles, additional models of governance that need to be planned for.
Right.
If you're really going to use this as your enterprise experience management system, you need to be planning to govern and manage each facet of the system appropriately.
It'd be interesting to see at a large enterprise where the responsibility falls, say for template editing.
Yeah.
Is that on the creative side or is that on the marketing side? There's an interesting exercise to be done there to find out what suits
the creative side, not the marketing side. Are those two sides?
I think they're two sides
of the same coin. Different coins.
No. Just no. I'm not doing this with you. Don't.
Not today? Alright, that's fine. Well, let's go to number 3.
Not today. Nested layout support, number 3.
Nested layout support. So this actually piggybacks on number 2. So 6.3, one of the many new features of 6.3 is the content tree in the page editing environment, where you can get a nice view of your nested content structure. Let's say you're building up a complicated layout with columns, and within the columns maybe you've got tabs, and within the tabs maybe you've got some other things, and you start to get to these levels of depth of nesting, and it becomes very difficult very quickly to sort of figure out where you are in the hierarchy of content if you're just looking at the overlays. And now there's a nice sidebar option where you can see, here's the whole tree, here's where I am, I just have to click here, if I want to edit this piece of text, click here to edit this content fragment. And this is again a shift in usage of AEM, where back in the CQ days and early AEM days, the nesting of this content was almost somewhat frowned upon, and
Right.
I always did it because it was the best way I could think of to build these extremely dynamic layouts was to nest these things. But I understand why it was frowned upon, because if you are actually editing the content in the context of the layout editing interface, now you're splitting up your content across columns and tabs and all of that sort of stuff. And if you want to pull it all together and get a single view of this blog, that's very difficult to do. Now that you've got the content fragments, you can author your textual content over here in the fragments, use the page authoring interface to manage your layout, and then you project the written content into the layout. The digital asset gets projected into the layout, and now you have a lot more freedom to produce these extremely flexible layout authoring mechanisms by nesting components.
Right, and even the flip side of that, I think the ability, just with the advent of Touch UI, there's a lot of people just converting to Touch UI now.
Yeah.
We're working with a large enterprise, and these are their first projects. That is one of the biggest complaints, is the ability to not be able to find the component to edit when you're doing inline editing. So that content, I think even there it helps in that it's going to make it easier to find, instead of having your front-end developers adding in big backgrounds in front of the components and stuff to
edit here,
click here, that kind of stuff. So I would say that that's a step forward there as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Number 2.
Nothing funny about that one.
No.
Number 2.
I'll tell you, this one is hot right now.
Yeah. I can't even remember what I wrote down. So this
Sling
is going to be
model updates.
Oh yeah.
That's a big one.
Big updates to Sling models. Have you heard about these updates? They're big updates.
Real big.
Big updates to Sling models. Sling models, a couple new features that are super interesting. One is the ability to essentially adapt to a interface and be able to control at a resource type level which implementation of the interface it gets adapted to. This is used heavily in the core components to enable extension, overriding, things of that nature, as well as to enable future versioning of the componentry. It's something that we were sort of doing internally to an extent, by virtue of the fact that our component Maven plugin that automatically generates our dialogues and our content XMLs for us was writing out a class name property to the content XML for the components, so we could sort of cheat and leverage that in our HTL when we were adapting to an appropriate class. But now this is something that's actually built into Sling models to be able to pick an implementation based on the resource type you're coming from.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
I was one of the cheaters using your component plugin that was using that class name and reflecting on it to create dynamically create classes to kind of give that feeling of control at the resource level. So I am very excited to not be hacking.
Yeah.
For it to be part of the framework.
So number two update that is pretty big is the Sling Models exporter functionality. And what this lets you do, historically, let's say you wanted to expose a particular resource type, you wanted to be able to get a JSON representation of that. You might write a servlet that essentially just builds an object from it, or just adapts from the resource to your model and then spits out JSON. Now with the exporter, you can build custom exporters that will, given a resource type, will export to some arbitrary Java object, and you can also cause the system to essentially automatically create a servlet for you, register a servlet that will respond to JSON calls for the resource, or .png calls, or whatever you want to call. Mark Doherty, he's been on the show before. He's doing a presentation at Immerse, upcoming conference, I don't know why I'm mentioning it because there's no way I'm editing this video and getting it out in time for people to still register for it. But if they do post any of the recordings, you can go and watch Mark Doherty present on some of these Sling model updates. And he's got, I don't want to ruin the surprise here, but he's got a pretty funny demonstration of this exporter capability.
Awesome. All right, the last one.
Number one.
Big one. Content as a service.
Content as a service. This was, this is the latest incarnation of what one might call AEM Mobile.
We've probably the most useful.
The most useful, also the least directly attributable to mobile.
Right.
So, again, amazingly pragmatic update, not amazing branding. But, this is a new, again, this is kind of in line with the exporters and the various fragment type updates. This sort of plays off all of these updates nicely, gives you an interface for building essentially a domain model of the types of content that you're going to have on the site and defining various ways that that content can be exposed as a service. And the idea is you can put together a collection of content, a space is what they're calling it, which is essentially just a collection of content that's delivered through this content as a service mechanism, associate, let's say, a mobile app to that space, and now you can go within the mobile app, you can go get the content that's associated to the mobile app without the mobile app having to know anything about the content hierarchy, how AEM works, the fact that it's calling AEM at all. You would expose the content in a representation that's consumable for the particular application, if appropriate. So it's one of those reuse updates that lets you really extend the reach of your content in AEM without having to reinvent the wheel every single time.
I think first of all, it is an acknowledgement by Adobe that mobile apps need to be native. I think that they went that way with AEM Mobile last year, but the reality is the experience you can give with mobile needs to be done at the native level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to take advantage of all the tools that building something at the native level give you, but it needs content.
Yeah.
I think that's the second point is like you said, the reusability. The fact that you're not going to change out how you author your content. In fact, you might be doing it in fragments, however you're doing that, but the fact it does need to be transformed for different consumers, say the mobile end, because I think that is a big deal. Like you said, very pragmatic. I think it's much more useful than building out an entire mobile application in a content management system.
Absolutely.
I think this is something that will become useful and positions AEM in the center again.
Right.
Where it is providing content to a multitude of consumers.
Yeah, and when we talk about content, this is where that content need not be just the written content. I can imagine a situation where you're building up not just a vocabulary around your sort of business domain, but you're building up a vocabulary around the types of experiences you want to provide. So you can have the concept of a carousel, and you can expose that carousel via the content as a service. And then in your native app, if you've built in something to recognize, hey, the content that I'm consuming is a carousel, so I can now use this native carousel widget that I've built to show whatever the slide content is for the carousel. And obviously, it's not the magic of author the experience once and it magically works everywhere. You've got to do the native development to make this work, but it gives you the tools to create a situation where you can produce a cohesive and consistent experience across your various touch points. Your mobile app, your digital signage, kiosks, even going so far as potentially exposing the content as a service to like an Alexa skill or a Google Home application or something of that nature.
Yeah, I certainly think it's a step in the right direction as far as even separating content from experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the ability to push out the same content to different channels is very important.
Yeah.
I think that it's emphasizing that in the architecture. It's really good. And hilarious, really.
That's a lot of goose. A lot of goose in this one.
Yeah.
Did I do this shirt? I noticed you didn't change.
I did not change. I was not. Let's go